we're going to be working in this assignment is working with larger sets of data. The data that we used up to this point hasn't been very large. It was just the Atlantic Canadian universities. So now we're going to be working with a spreadsheet that has a larger data set. And this is this year's current stats for NHL players. And it doesn't seem like we're going to be seeing the end of the season unless things change. So we're going to be looking at this data as it is, and then we're going to be manipulating it in further assignments to try and see where the stats would have been for players if they had reached the 82 games and the end of the season. So when you're dealing with larger data sets, this one is down to about 800 and some players on this data set. So it's a very large data set. All the way down, let's see how far we go down here, 885 rows. So it's a lot of data to look at. So we're just going to look at how to deal with this much data. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of the data that we're not going to be using, as this is just an export from the NHL, and we don't need all of this data. So we're not going to need the power play and shorthanded information for what we're going to be doing. So I'm just going to select those columns, and I am just going to delete them. Okay, so now I want to be able to sort this data, and I want to be able to make sure that my first row is my title row, but right now this also has two title rows. So I'm going to get rid of that first row, which was just kind of talking about what the row below it was, and I'm not going to need that anymore. So I'm just going to delete that row, and now I have my data the way I want it to look. I've got my title at the top, and then I've got my information running down from there. Now, one of the things that's going to happen as you scroll down is you're going to not know what these numbers mean because you lose the titles as you scroll down. So we're going to modify the view so that those things that we're going to need to see stay in the view as you scroll around. And to do that, we're going to go to View, and we're going to go to Freeze, and we're going to freeze the first row. And then we're going to go to View, and we're going to go to Freeze. And we're going to go to 2 columns over, and that'll allow us to continue to see the player's name and the team name. All right, so now as I scroll down, you can still see the titles at the top, and if I scroll over, you can still see the player and team as I scroll across that data. And that just gives us a little better look at the data as we scroll down in these large data sets. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to sort the players by team. So I am going to select all of the data by clicking up in the top corner, and I'm going to go to Data, and I'm going to go to Sort, and I'm going to say that, yes, my first row is a header row, and then I'm going to select by team. This will allow me to sort them by team. Now, I'd like to also sort them by player last name, but I can't do that, so at least not yet. So we're going to take a look at how to fix that as well. But for now, we're going to sort them by team. So click Sort. Okay, now they're all sorted by team. Now, the problem I was talking about. Right now, the player's first and last name is in one column together. And I want to be able to separate that so that I can sort them by last name if I needed to. And so there's 2 problems there. One is that they're not sorted by that yet. And the second is that some players actually have more than one last name, like Michael Delzato, who has 2 last names, or Jacob De La Rose, who has 3 last names. So there is a way to separate this data in a function that's built into the spreadsheet program, and I'm just going to go over how to do that. Now, what will happen is as I separate this, it's going to basically break it up and paste it into the columns over to the right of it. So I don't want to copy over the information that's there, and it doesn't insert the columns for you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert the room for it. So I know Jacob De La Rose has 3 last names, so I'm going to have to insert 3 blank columns. So I'm going to insert 1, 2, and 3 so that I know I have room for this new data that's going to be coming out of here. And then I'm going to click on this column, and I'm going to go to Data and Split Text to Columns. And that'll allow me to split this. And then I'm going to split it based on this fact that it's going to have a space in between the first name and the last name, or last names in this case. So I click on that, and now I should see that split. So now I've got the first name, I've got the last name, and in some cases I've got the last name over several, like we have for Jacob De La Rose or Michael Delzato. So now once I've got them separated, well, I don't want a bunch of last names over separate columns, so I need to stick those back together. So I'm going to use another equation that is called concatenate. And what that does is it allows you to now stick text rows back together. So I'm going to insert another column here. Let's go here, insert, and I'm going to put my equation in here. And I'm going to go equals concatenate, okay, which appends a string of text together. And then I have to tell it what columns to get it from. So I'm going to go to B2. And now here's, unless you wanted to jam them together, you have to actually manually add in the space between the different last names. So you're going to put in quote, press the space bar, quote, comma, and then select the next one, which is C, and then do the same thing again, comma, quote, space, quote, comma, and then the next one, and then your end bracket, press enter, and then that should put the name together. And then what you're going to do is you're going to then copy and paste that down through all of the ones that you've done so far. And we'll get all the way down to number 883. There we go, paste that. Now all the names should show up there. We'll scroll back up to the top. And now we don't need all these extra columns that we've created. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this whole column. And then I'm going to paste it. Just again, we're going to go to that paste values to get rid of the equation. I'm going to paste the values into there. And then I can delete these three columns because now I don't need them anymore. And now what I should see is just the last names all together for all those players that we put them together with. All right, so when you get all that done, that'll be it for your lesson for today.